What is up, guys? Welcome to Loveshack Entertainment, and today we're bringing you a deck profile video. So actually, initially we're going to just do one, but we're going to be sending you guys off with two new deck profile videos before we wrap up for a week or so. So we're going to get started today, and this is just kind of like a bonus video that I'm really excited about with Amorphages. So this deck came out in Shining Victories. Obviously, it's had some hype around it when it was first announced in the OCG, but the deck has had mixed success, especially with pure variants, which are just not all that great. Just because they're a little slow and it's hard to play. But I'm playing a Draco version here, which I've actually done relatively well with in testing. So I still have a lot to do with it, but it's one of the decks I'm considering taking to YCS, and if it ends up being something that I have fun playing, then I will end up doing that. So let's go ahead and get right into it. I've already talked 48 seconds longer than I should have. So we start with one Sloth. Sloth is a level 6 secret rare. Beautiful card, by the way. Sloth is the mistake of the deck. Some people are going to tell you that you should play more than one. I'm only playing one for the time being because you do have other tribute options, and Sloth is not really one of those cards you need all that often. It's really good against Monarchs, obviously, but the deck has a lot of options against Monarchs, so I don't want to end up bricking into Sloth, which can't be pendulumed or, is also relatively weak for normal summon. Triple Eschery, this is the Ultra. This one stops either player from activating spell cards except for Amorphage card. It's really powerful. I wish it was a level 4 so you could pendulum summon it, but you can't. One of the things you can do is if you open this up, it puts you in an extremely prime position to lock down your opponent. So against Monarchs and to a lesser extent Cosmo, this card is extremely powerful. You want to see it as soon as you can against Monarchs especially. So I'm also playing Triple Wrath. Wrath is basically like a Fog King. You need to play a contribute monster except Amorphage monsters. Now this card is really good against Monarchs, but what makes it really strong in the deck in general is the fact that it's a 4, you can pendulum summon it, and it's 60 and 50. So it does have some beat stick power under some of your spells, which makes him good. And when he dies, you can always just pendulum summon him back. So Wrath is definitely a 3 of, basically just because he's a 4, but he also has that benefit of being amazing against decks like Monarchs as well. And then, so Triple Greed. Greed, I'm a little bit on the fence about playing him at 3. It's good that he's a 4. I don't inherently love the fact that he doesn't have any attack points. And the other thing is, he stops either player from activating traps, except Amorphage cards. But the fact is, traps aren't all that prevalent right now. I mean, you see them in decks like PK Fire, so it does have its uses. I'm not downplaying that. I'm just saying sometimes it does kind of dead draw a little bit. I might cut him down to 2. And I'll explain why in a minute when we get to that point. So I'm playing 2 Amorphage Pride. So Pride is the other level 4. It prevents effect damage, which obviously you're not going to see that effect all that often. It's decent because it's a scale 3, but it's also 1750, and under your field spell it's going to be like 2050. So it's definitely nice to be able to swing with, but I basically just use this for its pendulum summon ability. The good 4, in my opinion, is Envy. Now, I'm only playing 1, but what I kind of want to do, and I guess I probably should have, put that out there a little bit before the video, but is drop a Greed and bump Envy up to 2, so go 2 and 2. Now, Envy's a 5, so obviously, like, the scales, you want to make sure you have decent scales. Envy prevents either player from activating cards as Chain Link 2 or higher, which essentially means once you get your opponent in a good spot, they can't chain to your stuff. Which is really good, especially like in the middle of the game. It slows them from being able to mount any kind of offense, and you just play kind of a grind game. Again, he's 0 attack points, which is certainly not the best stat you'd like to see, but he does have a 20-50 wall there as defense, so he's really good. I think I would go Greed to 2 and Envy to 2, maybe kind of, because I think it'd be a better fit. 2 Gluttony. So this is another one I'm a little bit on the fence about. Gluttony is actually really good. It prevents either players from activating effects except for the effects of Amorphage monsters. Again, what I don't like about him is the fact that he's level 2, so you can't really pendulum summon him, and the fact that he is 0 attack again. So a lot of them are playing a bit defensively, and you're hoping to be able to tribute some and then put some stronger monsters out, which is good and everything, don't get me wrong, but I want to be able to have a decent variety of 4s as well. Goliath, I'm playing at 2, and I've gone back and forth on this number. He's actually really cool. So he's 2750. Obviously, you're going to get him out by tributing. He also stops either player from special summoning monsters from the extra deck except Amorphage monsters. So once he's out on board, you got a 30-50 beater under the field spell, and you can't really do much to out him from the extra deck. And if you have a good field setup where you're stopping spells and tributing and stuff, he's obviously going to be a lot more powerful. I debated bumping him to 3. The thing is that He can dead draw, obviously, but when he's in your pendulum zone there, he acts the Macro Cosmos, which is extremely powerful, so really like it. Really like him. I just don't think he's necessary at 3. Double Max C, because this deck is just so, I mean, not this deck, this meta in general is so special summon heavy that having Max C is pretty much one of those ways to really control the game. In a deck like this, which is a little bit slow, the draw power never hurts. 2 Majesty's Fiend, so I personally love this card in here, and this was a more recent addition. Your field spell gives you pluses once you tribute Amorphages, regardless of what for, which definitely adds to, essentially turns Majesty's Fiend into like a summon and draw card. But also, on top of that, all your monster effects are continuous, they don't activate, so Majesty's Fiend doesn't really hurt this deck at all. Whereas if you're able to drop Majesty's Fiend against Cosmo or something else while you have an Amorphage out, he's really good. So that's pretty much it for the, the core of the deck, and obviously like Majesty's Fiend Max Heal a little different, but so I have the Draco engine too, which is the 1 Luster Pendulum, 2 of the Lecter Pendulum. I don't inherently love this card either, but I play it at 2 because you play Draco face off, you want to make sure you have a target for it. So in the unfortunate circumstance where you do open with one of these, you want to make sure your card's not dead. And then 2 Master Pendulum. Why not? I'm going to play in Vector because it doesn't do too much. Master's 1950, so it's a strong beat stick. But also being a scale 3 gives you the option to pendulum summon a lot better. So this gives you access to stuff, particularly this. I wish you could play this at more than 1. Obviously you can't because it's limited, but it being a tuner, you can synchro with your own Dracos or an Amorphage that you normal summoned, obviously, because when they're on board you can't summon from the extra deck unless you're summoning an Amorphage. So the Draco engine basically just works to speed things up and gives you some more options in terms of your power plays. Triple Amorphage Infection. This gives all Amorphage monsters 100 attack and defense for each Amorphage card on the field. So they can stack up kind of quick when you really think about it. If you got 2 in the zones, this and the field spell, that's 400 boost to everything, plus the boost the field spell is giving. If a monster in your hand or you control is tributed, destroyed by battle, or by a card effect, you can add an Amorphage card from your deck to your hand. So awesome, because it really does make it so that when you have to tribute to keep your scales intact, you can then search and get something else to net, offset whatever advantage you might lose by doing that. Triple Amorphous Persona, that's the field spell. I don't inherently love it at 3, but I feel like I want to see it as soon as possible, which is why I decided to go with 3 rather than 2, which the majority, which is kind of standard, is to play 2. It's good, obviously. The boost is incredibly important, but each time you tribute an Amorphage, you can draw a card up to twice per turn, which includes tribute summons, which makes this card amazing. So really probably one of the best cards of the deck. I don't play the Ritual Monster because he's kind of a dead draw, and he's really not worth it, but that also would bring that out. 2 Scapegoat. So, I don't know, I've seen some decks that play it, some that don't. Scapegoat gives you instant tribute fodder. Obviously, this is a bit of a negative if you have, how's it called? Lechery, which obviously means you can't activate spells that are not Amorphage. But if you kind of just, either play this before Lechery comes out, and then you just pretty much have your 4 tokens, or if you're just playing with any other scales, you really have some interesting options with this. And on top of it, you can also tribute these tokens for Horn of Heaven, which is kind of cool too. So it gives you the ability to negate summons. I like it so far. 1 Regeki, Regeki's still going to be a power card regardless. 1 Twin Twister, I do side 2 more. It's just, you don't really want to discard too much, and a lot of times you can lock down stuff, so that's not as important. And then 1 Draco face-off, which I would play at 3 if I could, but I can't, so obviously everyone knows how good that card is. And then for the traps, I have triple Amorphage Lysis here, so that's 3 of these. This one, if an Amorphage card you control is just... if a card in your Pendulum Zone, rather, is destroyed, you can place an Amorphage Pendulum Monster from your deck into your Pendulum Zone. So this allows you to pretty much say, oh, this is what my opponent's using, how can I counter it, and how can I play against it, and set yourself up accordingly. Also, it decreases the attack of all monsters on the field that aren't Amorphages by 100, so that's pretty good too. Again, you can only use 1 copy per turn as far as the search effect goes, but you want to see it as soon as possible. And then 1 Solemn Warning. I still think it's obviously the best counter trap in the game, and 1 Horn of Heaven. The tribute, again, off Horn of Heaven is something I'm sort of toying around with here, but you do get to draw off the tribute, so it offsets, and you can use the Scapegoat tokens for it. So I got to do a little bit more with it. If it works out well, I might bump it up to 2, just because there's really no reason not to fully utilize that. So yeah, this is the kind of the rough draft variant of the build. It's not perfect, but I wanted to be able to make the deck a little bit fun, and so if anyone has any suggestions, comments, criticism, please feel free to drop them down below, and give this video a thumbs up, and comment, like, subscribe for more videos, and I will see you next time right here, LoveshackEntertainment. Bye-bye.